And welcome to your second dose this week of the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour podcast. I'm Sergio Paradise and I'm joined as always by star of AFL Game Day, the Nova Breakfast Show, and a man whose coattails I shamelessly cling. It's Titus O'Reilly.
I don't know about that. I don't even have a coat on.
But you do have a number of very nice antique coats that formerly worn by dead people that you've bought at the Salvos.
Yeah, that's right. The Salvos.
When I was at uni, that's where we used to get all our formal wear.
Really?
But didn't you do that when you were at university? You had to go to a uni ball or something. You'd go straight to the Salvos. You'd get a magnificent old three-piece dinner suit for about $2.50.
Oh, no, I just go down to Armani.
Down to Ferrari formal wear.
Just get hit the trust fund.
Yes. Just put it towards another.
No, I never got invited to those things, Serge. You know that.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, a bit of business to kick off.
Bit of housekeeping. Yeah.
Housekeeping. One, we want to thank our supporters.
Yes, we do. Increasing every week.
Yeah, so thank you for everyone. It's helping us immensely to do not only 2 shows a week, but also just do a lot of writing and other things like that, and being able to keep it away from paywalls, which I get a lot of people complain when things are behind paywalls. And now
it is as a consumer. I mean, I find it with newspaper, website stuff. It's really frustrating. You understand why it's there, but it can be really frustrating when you can't read what you want to read.
My aim is I'd like to have enough supporters that we never have to do that. That's our aim. So that's why. And we're not quite there yet, but we're getting there. So thank you to everyone.
We will never build a paywall between here and Mexico.
Unless we don't get enough money.
Exactly. Then we'll contract it out.
That's right. We should also mention we left off announcing who won the question on Monday, last episode, and that was Michael Barbaro for will the Suns players seek asylum to stay in China?
It was a very good question. And
he has tipped off the Chinese authorities, though.
No, that's true.
So, look, Mike, I'll be in touch to get you out a Titus and Sergio Variety Hour T-shirt.
Yes, we did forget to do it. We've done it a couple of times lately. We've
done it twice.
We're going to have to stop drinking the witches in breeches moonshine before the show.
Now, we should announce that we don't have a guest today.
I know, but a couple of biggies next week.
But we've got 2 next week. We're probably going to announce the first. The second, we've got locked in, but it's just subject to if something comes up on the day for them. So I don't want to...
Subject to his meeting with his lawyer. Yeah.
No, it's not quite that. Although the one we've got on, it's going to be on Tuesday instead of Monday.
Yes.
To fit in around some of their commitments. And it's the Will Anderson.
The great man.
The comedian, and more importantly, the Western Bulldogs fan.
He's a big doggies man. He grew up the bush in Victoria, and he's taken the world by storm, and he's back in town for the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, as he always does.
He's in Melbourne and Sydney at the moment.
Yes, Melbourne, Sydney, and then he'll be back to LA, and he is a genuine superstar, and we're very excited that we've got our hands on him.
That's
so
right.
We're going to see him on Tuesday.
So we're looking forward to that, and we're looking forward to...
Do you reckon he'll be impressed by the standard of Studio Titus compared to where he normally works?
I think he'll be less impressed by the standard of the people running on air.
He'll walk in and go, "What, really? I need new management."
He'll walk in and say, "Yeah, that's right. This is maybe a sign that his career's about to go off a cliff." Or has.
Yeah, but when you're doing our podcast, you've got a crap agent.
You're fired. It's great he's doing it, so we're looking forward to that. That should be fun. Talking to someone who's we haven't debriefed with a Bulldogs fan since the grand final win, and so it should be fun to talk to him and go through what that day was like too. Now, I should also add we've got, I think pretty much if you're listening to this, probably the Dane Swan event, which is on this Saturday, April 8th, is probably sold out, but you might be able to get on and get one or two. I know the first show's completely sold out, and the second show, when I checked just before, had just a few tickets left, not many. But if you are dead keen and you're listening to this, worth going on and checking for that second show. So that should be fun.
And get onto one of those scalping websites. You get a couple of tickets for about 500 each.
Yeah, that's right. I should also announce I'm coming out to Sydney to do a gig on the 21st of April, and that's
It's a Friday night.
And the Saturday night is GWS Sydney. So it'll be the night before. They're not calling it the Battle of the Bridge anymore.
Aren't they?
No, they got rid of
a name for it?
No, I think it's like the Sydney Clash or something. I don't know.
Turn it up.
Well, the Battle of the Bridge was kind of ridiculous. It was a Kevin Sheedy one. It wasn't even the Sydney Harbour Bridge. It was about another Anzac Bridge or something.
The bridge that goes round
to Western Sydney.
Across to Western Sydney.
So it wasn't even like... I thought... When you hear Battle of the Bridge and it's Sydney, you think...
Well, that's the thing, but that's why, even though it was probably a silly name, it lent itself to a good graphic of the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
Yeah, it should have been about that, the Battle of the Bridge, meaning just because the Sydney Harbour Bridge sort of signifies Sydney. That would have made sense to me, and it would have been exactly good graphic.
Better than the Battle of the Opera House.
And the winner should have got to literally own the bridge for the year and charge tolls.
Jack up the tolls.
Could have been a funding model.
Oh, and
GWS need a funding model at the moment.
You could have Leon Cameron just standing there taking your $1.80 every time you cross the bridge.
So anyway, I'll be up on the 21st. I'll put a link in the show notes Friday night at the Comedy Store. I think it's on at 7 p.m, just doing stand-up for an hour. So come along. And we had it sold out last time in Sydney. So
it did.
If you want to come to that, get in early. Buy early, buy often.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Now, I should add for...
Be early to avoid disappointment.
Yeah, that's right. Now, I should add that while that's a first event, we've got other events we're working... some will be just me, some will be Serge and I, and that depends on the time we sort of can get at each venue mainly. Yep.
But we are travelling. We're going to be going around the country.
We're going to do a lot
exciting.
So we've got news coming up for Adelaide, Perth, Canberra we're looking at. Brisbane I'm looking at. So all around. So Hobart too.
Obviously Melbourne we'll be doing and probably some more shows in Sydney.
It's definitely Melbourne. So we're looking at all those things. So those things will all be coming up. So I have announcements about them more. But the 21st of April for me up in Sydney.
Yes,
so
get up there. Go see along. Titus. It's it'll be a very funny night.
Now we should add, we should get onto business. Big news.
Bit of news the last couple of days, hasn't there?
Now the first few items on this all relate to basically players moving around. In the NRL, Cooper Cronk, who plays for the Melbourne Storm, a terrific player, one of their often referred to as the big three, him, Billy Slater, and Cam Smith.
Yes.
They used to have about a big 4 or 5, but that you had to cheat to have them all.
You throw Craig Bellamy in there. That's pretty much
sort of it.
They're pretty much the only Melbourne Storm players that Melbourne people know.
That's right. So he's announced that he's ending his 14-year career at the Storm at the end of this year, and he'll return back to Sydney. He'd inked a $2 million 2-year deal last year, but he had the option in that second year, I think, to choose to not take it up, basically, that option. And the big reason that's been given for him deciding to do this, because he's been very successful and very happy at the Storm, is a little thing called love, Serge.
Yeah, I mean, who'd have thought? Who would knock back $1 million a year for love?
Not me.
Not me. Both of those options extremely unlikely, we should point out.
I think true love means never having to knock back $1 million. So anyway, his fiancée and Fox Sports presenter Tara Rushton, who does a lot of the A-League on Fox Sport, she's based in Sydney, so he's decided that he's going to now move there to be with her. And a lot of people have praised this as...
there's been a touch of romance about this.
Yeah, very romance. But to me, I think putting anything before sport is worry.
Oh,
it's a slippery slope.
It is. I mean,
have you ever loved someone enough to put football second?
No, you didn't even have to say to put football second.
Have you ever really loved a woman, Serge?
Yeah, it sounds like a Michael Bolton song. I think it is.
No, whose song was that? That was someone's.
I don't know.
I can't remember. It wasn't Michael Bolton. One of the
James Blunt.
No, it was. Oh, what's his name? Summer of '69. Brian Adams.
Oh, Brian Adams.
AFL Grand Final.
Oh yes, bit of Run to You in Summer of '69.
Have you ever really loved a woman?
Yeah.
So
that's
there
like,
you go.
Not his other great Brian Adams song. The only thing that looks good on you is me. Do you remember that one?
I do remember that. Song. This isn't my moment to tell you that's my favourite song. So anyway, Cooper's going back. Interesting that he's going back. Now, the thing about this that's different in NRL and rugby league compared to the AFL is in the AFL players don't announce that they're leaving mid-season. They don't do that.
And it's common in the NRL, not only to say, I'm leaving at the end of the year, but they actually often name the club that they're playing for next year, which never happens in the AFL.
They do a press conference and they say, I've loved my time here, but I'm going to Penrith next year.
The Bulldogs next year.
Exactly.
Canterbury.
And it is weird because the NRL argue, and I'm not sure which one's right here, I think they're just different cultures in a way. The NRL argue, well, it's better than all the nonsense of pretending like Gary Ablett did and Buddy did and a bunch
Tom
of
Scully
and Patrick Dangerfield. I haven't made my mind up yet, and then it becomes a huge thing all year. And what happened with Nat Fyfe this year, happens with lots of players. So you don't get that, but on the same thing, the AFL people will argue. Well, imagine having to barrack for a player you knew was like a traitor, who was leaving you, and how are they giving it their all?
Going back a few years, how would Hawthorn supporters have felt if halfway through that season they knew that Buddy was going to be playing for Sydney next year?
Judas,
it would be hard. Look, I agree with you. I think it is. It's a cultural thing between rugby league and the AFL, and look, there's a fair bit to be said for the rugby league sort of way they operate there, as far as transparency and honesty. But the romance of the AFL, of club loyalty and sticking with the club, it's probably a bit passé now. But
there's something about it though of trying to hope you can win the player over and stuff too. But it does happen anyway. So I don't know. The interesting thing that's happening this year is a couple of ones that are happening in this area. Well, first one we should mention is Gary Ablett.
There's been a lot going on there at the moment.
The thing I find amazing about this in the media coverage of it is you'd think we had a mid-season trading period the way they're carrying on. They're carrying on like he's going to be back in Geelong this week.
Yeah. And it's round 2. We've just completed round. There's still another 21
rounds.
Plus finals still to go. Maybe not for the Gold Coast, but
exactly. Like, it's not like he's just going to be playing in Geelong in like a week's time.
Yeah.
Whether he gets through the season uninjured.
Yeah, that's another question.
The other thing I think is, if you're Geelong, do you really want him? Now, it depends on the dollars and how healthy he gets through this season and his form this season.
Well, he'll have to take a fair pay cut, won't he? You would think. From $1 million to a year.
He has to. There's no way you're paying him.
Maybe he should, when he comes back, maybe he could get a job at one of George Calombaris' restaurants. Everybody takes a pay cut down there.
I've loved that how it's just like a $2 whatever million oversight.
2.6 mil. I'm shocked and horrified. Yeah, righto, George. Yeah, that's why my last burger there was $37.
What I liked about him too is he'd been carrying on in the media not that long ago about how penalty rates were killing him. It turns he wasn't even paying the proper rates properly.
There's
a lot going on there.
He's come out on the front foot to be the good guy, which he has to do. And I just love the timing of that. Like the week before MasterChef starts.
How long till he's on an AFL board? Only a matter of time. He's got the business background right there. I think Gary Ablett, though, is amazing about... They were talking on a few things I've seen recently. They were saying, like the romance of him going back to Geelong. And I'm like, it's a bit like someone leaving you for a younger, richer partner.
Yeah.
And then when they get a bit old and bored of it, coming back to you and going, I'm back.
Exactly.
And you're going, thank God.
Yeah.
So romantic.
That trophy wife thing didn't work out, did it?
That's right. Scott, mate, he's making something like $1.9 million for a few years up there.
Oh, he's done very nice. I mean, he set himself up. I think he's just sold or is selling his, as his beachside mansion, which that's how you have to describe all real estate on the Gold Coast as a beachfront mansion. But he's done very well. But
but the Suns are a mess. We had Damo write to us. A fan wrote to us, and he's a passionate Gold Coast supporter. And I was going to say,
really?
I was going to say the only one, except Damo was clever enough in his email to point out that you'll probably use that joke. And I was like, damn you, Damo.
He's aware. He's up to you.
Always thinking 2 steps ahead. And he made a lot of points about his defence of the Gold Coast Suns, some of which I agree with, some of which I thought this is a fan truly barracking. But he did offer for if we're up on the Gold Coast to go have a beer with him. So I'll apologise, Damo, for our sons bashing.
We'll do that.
But but as I remind people, if you get sick of me bashing one team, just wait 5 minutes. We'll move on to someone else.
Yeah, I mean, there's always Collingwood, there's always Richmond. We'll get there.
Everyone gets a chance. Like, we'll get to some of the other ones later on. But now we should add another one in this sort of, will they, won't they go, and these big deals that are coming out. And I don't think Gary Ablett, by the way, I think the chances of him playing on next year are low.
Yeah.
So I was reading something, there's only 9 players left from his draft year in the AFL. That's how old he is, you know. Like,
what was he, 33, 34? So, yeah.
It's not like he's going to play another 5 years or something. I mean, so he's...
And really, even if he has an average... Okay, he had a pretty ordinary game last week. But assuming he comes good a bit, I mean, he is Gary Ablett after all. Even if he has a reasonable sort of year for the Suns this year, do you reckon Geelong are going to bend over backwards? Do they? I mean, look at their midfield. I mean, they've got Dangerfield and Selwood now.
The only way you do it is if you go, he agrees to come back on a lot less money and to play in the midfield as a... on the forward line, pocket, as sort of like his dad did in his later years, and he can sort of do those shorter bursts and less running and that might be a possibility. And you do it if you think adding him is going to get you the premiership.
Well, that's true.
You're not going to do it if you go, we've still got 3 or 4 more years already building.
Yeah.
Because then you want younger players and stuff. Yeah. But Josh Kelly up at Greater Western Sydney,
they seem to have the Giants. There is a never-ending group of star players that other clubs now all want. And it's understandable because they're all first-round draft picks.
Also, the media, Melbourne media, like to always get into it a bit to sort of make out like that. Like the amount of times you read, it is uncanny how often I read a story about Greater Western Sydney, and it says something along the lines of, it'll say something along the lines of, this player is being poached by,
that's
and
what
then
I'm
the very next week, GWS re-signed them for a couple of weeks, and I'm just like, what,
Is this
It's uncanny. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Josh Kelly signs this week.
Well, that's what I like a conspiracy theory.
You love a conspiracy theory.
Do you reckon maybe Josh Kelly's management has created this whole little furor?
Well, that's what Liam Cameron reckons. He thinks it's
a tactic.
It's a tactic. The other thing that makes it interesting is, so the idea is that Josh Kelly has had an offer on the table from North Melbourne.
Yeah.
So North Melbourne have got salary cap and they want to attract some stars, and they've gone after some big stars in recent years and come up short. So they're looking here and they're offering money to... it says here that the idea is they've offered a 9-year deal worth $9 million, so $1 million a year. So huge in length and in money.
And he's only a kid. What is he, 21, 22?
Yeah. And so it's a huge amount of money. He's played 62 games and he's 22. When you think about that, how do you almost... It's in that zone of offer you can't refuse. Like if you're a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, and someone's offering you a guarantee... I don't know what the guaranteed component of this is compared to the rest, but, you're getting roughly $9 million in the next 9 years, you're set.
Yeah,
and
by the time you're 30, you I mean, but they're common now, these big... Like the Buddy Franklin deal was that blew everyone out of the water. 10 years for $11 million or something.
Yeah.
But then the Bulldogs, they did Tom Boyd, $7 million over 7 years.
I still don't think they're worth it. Like Buddy's,
they're very risky.
Buddy's squeezed out. They squeezed out to get Buddy, and Buddy's been really good, so you can't say. But they have had to squeeze out. Like they lost Parker last year. They've lost Mumford. There's a host of players at various levels that they've had to lose.
Tom Mitchell, I couldn't hang on to.
Not Parker, Mitchell. Sorry, I misspoke. There's a bunch of players like that they're losing or can't sign, and they had the trade ban stuff, which didn't help them, Sydney. But it does make it harder having these big deals. Like, you are,
there's already rumblings at the Western Bulldogs that some of their premiership players may have to forego pay rises, bonuses, or even take a bit of a pay cut. Because, not just the Tom Boyd deal, but because so many of their players have got back-ended deals and now starting to get on the big bucks. But that's the whole thing, the romance of let's keep the premiership team together. Yeah. But, it
does get to the point when you get a deal like this. The interesting thing, though, is where this came from the actual amount. So it seems like North haven't denied that they've made this offer. So it does seem there is a big offer on the table. But what I did laugh about is the person who broke the amount and the dollars and everything was Brian Waldron, a former Storm CEO during the salary cap.
How did Brian get his hands on this little snippet?
Well, that's what I reckon. Someone's leaked it to him.
Yeah.
And the reason I think they've leaked it to Brian is you got plausible deniability. You got, we know what Brian's like with figures. They've floated it to get it in the media, knowing
it's an ambit claim. Yeah.
How Brian gets on SEN every week is beyond me.
Oh,
it's like this is a guy who absolutely is one of the biggest routers of the system of blatant salary cap cheating. Do you remember? My favourite bit about the Melbourne Storm salary cap scandal that Brian Waldron oversaw was they'd sign a player on paper under salary cap for say $900,000, right? And so then they would, on the side, organise salaries and gifts for partners and family members. They at one point gave a $30,000 boat to one of the players.
That was my favourite bit. There was just a beautiful Haynes Hunter cruiser sitting down there at St Kilda Marina.
And then the other thing that I really liked is they gave one of the players on the sly a $20,000 gift card to a national retailer like Kmart or something. Like a $20,000 gift card. Imagine you walked into a Kmart with a $20,000 and just go, I've wanted everything, thanks.
Exactly. Just put the whole lot in the back of the car. You know?
I just wonder if there's enough on this gift card left. There's still $10,000 left on it.
There's your groceries for the entire year.
Unbelievable. Like they got away. And here's Brian each week giving us his thoughts on the business of sport.
But then they got caught, and they all went down. I mean, we all know the horrendous penalties that the Melbourne Storm got. But to reiterate what you just said, Brian Waldron, he has popped up and he's on SEN every week now.
Talking the business of sport. And you know what? Some people say to me, because I tweeted something about him and someone said, will you never get a second chance there? And I'm like, well, you know what? Sometimes in life you don't get a second chance, especially not in the same thing. Like if he went off and became a plumber or I was going to say accountant. But if he went off and, did a bunch of other jobs, fine, whatever, but you don't get to come back into the sport net like
not as a sports.
And that, like, you don't for what he did. His was systematic cheating over years. It wasn't like, whoops, I made a mistake. It's not like, there's players who do something once silly and you go, all right.
Yeah, you can come.
But there are some things that aren't that forgivable. Like, this idea that anyway, it's very charitable
and
view
I don't
of mine,
think he passes the good bloke test. I mean, if he'd been in the AFL, he could come back.
Yeah, he must have been a lot of
But so then rolling out the red carpet.
Oh, anyway, now just so we are not nice to everyone all the time, what about those barbarians at Melbourne, Jordan Lewis and Jesse Hogan?
I thought you were going to say those barbarians at the match review panel or the tribunal.
Well, I was thinking now that I was, Jordan Lewis did a few pretty thuggish things at his time at Hawthorn, but now he's at Melbourne. I just think these things happen.
Butter won't melt in his mouth.
He's a good bloke, guys.
But I did notice after the suspensions came out the other day on social media, there was an absolute flood of people going, he was always a sniper. He was a sniper at Hawthorn. He still is.
I like everyone saying, he didn't get the Hawthorn discount anymore at Melbourne. Well, he got 3 weeks. He did break Cripps's jaw.
Yeah. I mean, I got to say, I guess when you punch a bloke in the face and break his jaw 3 weeks is probably about right.
It was just a hairline fracture.
Yeah, well, it wasn't like he's, wired up and living on soup for the next 3 months.
Yeah, that said, someone gave me a hairline fracture. I'd want him to get more than 3 weeks. And Jesse Hogan did he get 2 and it was down to 1? Or has he got 2?
No, he got 3 down to 2.
3 down to 2, that's right, sorry. He struck Sam Rowe. He just whacked him in the face.
Well, as I think I said in the Monday podcast, I was at that game and I just sort of turned my head at the moment. I saw him throw the punch and Rowe go down. But you couldn't tell from where I was sitting whether he'd really nailed him or not, or it was whether one of those jumper punches that hit you in the top of the chest or the...
Yeah.
And I at first thought Rowe had taken a dive to get a free kick. And he did get the free kick. But it was only afterwards I realised, he did actually nail one. That was a good left hand.
I can't really remember. Melbourne players haven't done this for a long time.
Yeah, this is a sure sign
we're on track for a premiership.
I was kind of glad that we did it.
I wasn't really.
That old, we ain't going to be pushed around anymore.
But this felt less like, I like the we ain't going to be pushed around anymore. So there was an incident where Alex Rance elbowed Jack Watts.
Oh, that was last year, wasn't it?
Last year while he was lying face down on the ground.
They flew the flag
which was
down.
just that. And that's when that's when Jack Videy ran in and absolutely bailed him up and threw him to the ground. And I thought, well, that's good. That's the spirit you want. But just whacking guys off the ball in the face. I've got to say,
we're being silly about it.
That's
a punch in the head behind the play is never acceptable. But it's basically these days it's just dumb. There's so many cameras and what have you.
It's dumb.
You can't get away with it.
But it wasn't even like Jesse's, especially. Jordan Lewis said, and I haven't seen any footage that proves that, there was stuff going on before that. And maybe there was, but it still doesn't justify what he did. But Jesse's just looked like he was frustrated and just gave him a whack.
It was.
And that's just,
Rowe had been into him. I've been watching him, and Rowe had been into him for a while.
Yeah.
And Jesse had dropped a couple of marks, and he missed a shot.
Frustrated.
We were behind at the time, and it was just frustration. I think he just lashed out. And unfortunately, he lashed out and actually collected him really well. You look at the replay, so many times that short, sharp left would have been harmless. It would have slipped off the shoulder, but he copped him right in the right spot. So, got to take your medicine.
It reminds me once of you giving me a crack because you were frustrated with how the podcast was going.
I know. I learnt my lesson. I mean, we've all got to be accountable for our action.
That's why I always sit a bit further away from you now. Getting off AFL, getting on to golf. You raised this one. So
I love this.
I might let you take this up because I read it and everyone was going on about this was a huge controversy, and I don't understand golf enough to really care.
Okay, I'll explain. Lexi Thompson, who's a professional golfer, she was leading in a major last week, and then after she would have won the tournament,
right?
But afterwards, a TV viewer reckons that during her second round match, and there's 4 rounds in the tournament, they mark their ball on the green and then put their ball back. This TV viewer
mark it so they pick their ball up, but they know where the ball was.
Exactly.
So when the other guy or girl is putting, they don't hit the other ball, right?
Exactly, and get in each other's way. This TV viewer reckons she put it back in slightly the wrong spot. So they've had a look at it. The officials have had a look at it and penalised her 4 shots. 2 shots for putting it back in probably not the right spot, and then a further 2 shots for signing an incorrect card at the end of the round, which meant she lost the tournament. Now forgetting the fact, and Tiger Woods came out very strongly on this, saying, okay, if somebody makes this little infraction, okay, there is a penalty there, but it shouldn't be decided by a bloke sitting on his armchair with a Budweiser in his hand 3 days after the event.
Well, that's how I think everything should be decided. That's where it's another place where Tiger and I are different.
See, that's how the Jordan Lewis and Jesse Hogan thing should have been.
But what I don't understand reading this right, because then Phil Mickelson...
Yeah, he's come out.
He's come out and said this is common
the day before the Masters,
and he's sick of it, basically.
3-time champion Phil Mickelson, and I've got to tell you, who has a fabulous public image and plays it up on the course in front of the galleries that everybody loves Phil. He's always friendly and he'll sign your cap and he'll do all that.
Have you ever watched golf live?
Yeah, heaps of times.
Yeah.
But Phil Mickelson puts up this pretense of being such a good bloke. You talk to any professional golfer, they go, Phil Mickelson, he's a shocking piece of work. They reckon he's just the most ordinary bloke getting around. But Phil's come out and said that this happens commonly on the tour. He's accused his fellow pros on the PGA Tour basically of all being cheats.
But what I don't get is, so she marked, this is on the green, she marks where her ball was, and then she put it back down not in the right spot. Now,
But she took out the marker. It's only going to be a couple of centimetres
That's what
out.
I mean. That's what I can't get my head around, right? Like,
it's not like it was 8 feet closer to the hole.
That's what I don't understand. Like, she moved it like a metre closer.
Yeah.
I'd be like, total cheating. But like, if it's within an inch of the actual original placement of the marker, I think, who cares?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's just really making that big a difference.
Well,
is this going to have any material?
Well, the pro golfers will say that it can, in that if there's a little spike mark there that can affect the roll of the ball. But the thing is, with Phil Mickelson accusing most of his other players of being cheats, it's not probably the ideal way to go into this week at Augusta.
Well, he might be right, though.
Oh, he probably is right. But again, that's the whole point you bring up. Is it really cheating if you move your ball?
But it sounds like
an inch?
Like, to me, I'm so uncoordinated that if you asked me to pick up my marker and put a ball there, I would almost always just by pure accident
miss by a bit,
miss by a centimetre or something. Like, I just
even with a basketball,
even if I'd had a whiskey just before my hands had stopped shaking. Like, I don't. This is the thing I think frustrates the non-golfers who about golf. Is it's perceived as, and this just reinforces it in my mind.
Yep.
It's so finicky. It's so just little arguments over pointless things, and you just end up going, I don't care, whatever.
Well, see, and that's the funny thing is that in golf, cheating in golf is the biggest stigma you can have. But it is.
Unlike, say, AFL, where you get treated like
royalty,
like a homecoming queen.
In golf, cheating, you cannot have a bigger stigma. But on the other hand, it's possibly the easiest sport in the world to cheat at.
But not on the course with all the cameras and everything, though.
No, or when I say cheat at, for hacks, that is. I mean, everybody has kicked their ball out of the rough back onto the fairway.
Not me, you know why? Because
never played.
I don't play that much.
But I don't reckon he's going to win too many more friends this week.
Oh,
but I'll tell you what, he better watch where he puts his ball back with his marker. Because there's going to be plenty of people having a look.
Everyone's going to be watching that. I do like the idea you can just sit at home, and it says here that the person who was watching the golf and alerted them just sent through an email. I like the idea of that.
Yeah.
Because I got a few emails to send the AFL umpires after last round. Imagine that. They went, it probably wasn't in the back. We'll award that a goal.
What about these days? And technology, we could do this. Why can't you just tweet your thing live to the umpires and bring it up on the screen?
Well, the quicker we get to live tweeting and penalties, the better, in my view. Another one that you picked out, you've been out there just picking up stories left, right, and centre.
It's been a quiet week.
Can we call you a newsbreaker now?
A news hound.
We can call these exclusives, even though other media have extensively covered them. Yeah. I think that's what people just do.
This is about as exclusive as an interview with Ed Sheeran.
Now, Barcelona, the football club, last week, they were playing a side. Now, this was Barcelona's B team.
Yeah,
this is the reserves.
The Rezzies, the VFL
team.
The twos.
Now, they were playing another Spanish side in a third division, Eldenisi, and Eldenisi lost 12-0.
And there's
to
been
Barcelona.
suspicions of match fixing.
They went down. Yeah. Some slight suspicions of match fixing.
Would 12-0 be a clue?
It says here the Italian coach Filippo Di Piero, two unnamed players, and the head of an Italian investment fund running the club. So right there we get an Italian investment fund running it. Were arrested and questioned. Now apparently there's some belief that this club, I think, went almost bankrupt, and what happened is this investment fund put in to run it. Yeah. It's believed that what happened was they worked out one way we can make a lot of money out of this investment
is to have a couple of bets.
Is to have a few match fixing things to happen.
So they've obviously whether it's the players or this investment fund manager has had some pretty serious bets on them losing the game.
Well, so did the players, because one of the other players came out and said he was the first to actually come out and point the finger, and he did it on radio where he came out and said, I reckon it's fixed that there's certain of my teammates put huge money on this and would have made a lot of money from this.
Yeah.
Gee, they play an interesting game over there.
They do, but, I mean, if they were just betting to lose the game, they should have maybe gone a bit harder than 12 zip. If they'd lost 2 zip, they still would have made the money.
Or maybe there was
presuming
a spread.
Maybe there was a spread. You know, maybe they had to lose by 11 goals or more.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of goals in a game of soccer.
Not since Australia used to play. Remember we used to play the Solomon Islands and when we were in the old Oceania Conference and we just beat them 36-0 or something like that?
like a rugby league game against...
Yeah, and then we'd go from that to playing Argentina or Uruguay and then wonder why we struggled. It was just
be lucky to have a shot at goal, let alone score.
Now... Another thing that took your this you text me and email me a few times.
You didn't believe me at first.
Well, I didn't want to believe you, that's true. This is something, and I think I'm going to have to put a link in the show notes to the video. Yeah,
it's hard to explain unless you've seen it visually, but
there's a new sport on the scene, and it's very popular in Finland, and it's called competitive hobby horsing.
Yes.
Can you explain this for our listeners?
Okay.
Because if there's one person I think fits this sport and could be the voice of competitive hobby horsing, it's you, Sergio.
Okay. Competitive hobby horse. Now, think of like a hobby horse, literally like you buy your kid. It's got a plush, stuffed head of a horse.
Right.
And sticking out of its neck is a stick. So you put it between your legs, a bit like a broom when you're playing Quidditch. Right? And you gallop around and little kids pretend they're riding a horse, i.e. hobby horse.
Yeah.
Now, in Finland, they've taken this up as a competitive sport. And a lot of women are taking it very seriously.
Well, it seems to be young girls. So there's 10,000 girls across Finland, Sweden, Germany and France. So they're all sort of between the ages, I think, about 14 and 18, it said in the stuff I read. And they get together and they have like equestrian events.
Yeah, it's
but it's not real horses.
No, and they take it very seriously. And they also have like get-togethers and fairs and what have you, where they make, buy and sell their horses, the hobby horses. Yeah, it's like the Magic Millions up on the Gold Coast.
See, I originally thought hobby horse was, my view on the rush behind rule, not a competitive sport.
Well, I looked up their website last night, and you know how they...
You're spending a bit... you've probably been red flagged with about 30 different organisations around the world because you're spending... a grown man spending a lot of time looking at a hobby horsing.
Yeah, watching teenage girls
ride fake horses. It's sounding a bit suspicious to me, Serge. It is.
But you know how they describe it? If you want to be a part of the ever-growing world of competitive hobby horse, it says, all you need is a stick and a dream. Which could be the slogan for this show, actually.
I do. We should pinch that. I like that. A stick and a dream.
Yeah. But
my dream is having a stick.
Yeah.
We're dirt poor. We don't have that sort of money. Our budget does not let us quite do that. Well, I'll put a link up because you kind of have to see it to believe it. But it's adding to our sport, these sports, these made-up sports that are now competing with our... Quidditch being the big one.
These people who compete in these made-up sports, don't call them made-up sports.
I know.
I think we got a message yesterday.
Well, I did get a message that came through, and it was about Quidditch, and we've mentioned it many times. Now, we've mentioned before that Australian Quidditch is on fire at the moment.
World champions.
We're the world champions. It's one of the few sports in the world where we're actually world champions. And the team is the Australian Drop Bears. And we have said before, we talk more about Quidditch than any other sporting media outlet. Correct. So we're the home and it's good that Australian Quidditch.
The Drop Bears, they've named it after a mythical animal.
So someone they didn't give their full name. Their name was Snitches Get Stitches, which Snitches is, I think, a Quidditch term, as you would know.
And he works at Witches in Britches. Yeah.
As a brother of the member of the Australian Drop Bears squad, so right off the bat, got his credentials right out on the table.
Yeah, no, he's serious about his Quidditch.
It must be hard that, whatever he achieves, his brothers achieve so much more.
I was just about to say, he's always going to be in the shadow.
So he's like at a family.
He'll write a tell-all book one day. My brother, the drop bear.
He'll be at family dinner and go, I just got promoted at work, and go, well, you didn't win a Quidditch World
Cup.
World
champion, are you? You ain't a drop bear.
He said, as a brother of the member of the Australian Drop Bear squad, I enjoy that I can keep up to date with all the latest Quidditch news from this podcast, which is the premier media outlet in regards to Australian Quidditch. No argument there.
That is the line of that whole email. The premier media outlet in regards to Australian Quidditch.
Right up there with our other one of having a stick and a dream. Yeah. With this in mind, I would like to ask your thoughts about the creation of the new Sydney first grade, which is actually the only grade of Quidditch, he points out.
Right.
There's a new team called the Sydney City Serpents.
Bit of alliteration there.
And he says that they've gone the route of the Manly Rugby League team from the 70s and decided to endear themselves by fans by poaching all the best players from the other clubs. As one of the players says, the thing that annoys me the most was I wasn't one of the players poached. So there's a bit of controversy.
Is there a salary cap in Quidditch?
I think there's a certain amount of experience points you can have. I think it's like along that thing. You can only have a level 7 mage in your team, one each. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. Well, look,
I kind of both find, like, with Quidditch and something, I both think it's kind of odd, but then also I kind of love people that get into stupid things but then go massively serious on them.
Yes.
Because when you actually think about it, footy is like that.
Mm.
It's a bit like Quidditch is the Scientology and football is the Catholicism. It's just football's been around longer.
Yes.
It's just been around longer, so people buy all the stuff around it and just buy into it that it's serious. And when you look at it, the fact we all get excited about a group of grown men chasing a ball around the park.
Yeah, but it's more than
kind of weird.
Yeah.
Well, I know that because I've been indoctrinated since birth.
As we all have. But you're right. Quidditch is a bit Scientology-like in that there's not a lot of it makes sense.
Well, it's newer and everyone goes, it's just weird. It's weird rules. And you go, well, you read when they were coming up with the Australian, what was the Victorian game back there, the original code of rules there, they were seen as odd.
True.
Very
True
weird. Which brings us back to footy. That's our trip down to our magical sports. Back to AFL. Round 4 coming up.
Round 3.
Round 3. What have I done? I've covered it.
You've actually, on the rundown, you've written round 4
I've got
and put in the teams from round 2. So we actually should maybe get to round 3.
I just thought I'd done that.
I tell you, that moonshine's starting to kick in.
I tell you why I did that. I was up all night writing various things, and I wrote, as well as writing this run sheet, and I was half asleep by the time I was finished running. Right. I wrote half of my preview of round 3.
Round 3, good.
And I went to sleep very late going, well, I'm glad I've written that. Yeah. I'm glad I did that. Anyway, I got up this morning to have a look at it. It's just rubbish.
Complete gibberish.
I'm going to have to rewrite the whole thing. So anyway.
You should have just been watching competitive hobby horse on YouTube like I was.
There's something strange going on. So
who is playing this week?
Round 3, and I had to cover in. So Friday night we got Sydney Collingwood.
That's at the SCG, isn't it?
No, yes, it is.
Oh, yeah.
Undefeated. No team. Neither of them have
had a win yet. Gee, yeah.
Sydney are going to win that easily.
Yeah, Sydney should win. I mean,
Collingwood are rubbish.
They got to.
There's all this talk at the moment. There's all this talk about. I think Gerald Wheatley said they should re-sign Bucks for 2 more years to take away all this noise, and then a few others have said and I'm like. Yeah, it is too early to judge him, Serge. He's only had 5 seasons.
Yes.
He's in his 6th season. They've missed finals 4 of them. If it wasn't Nathan Buckley, I think Nathan Buckley's a good media performer and he was a great footballer. He's probably a really nice guy. I don't know.
He's a good bloke, so he'll end up in the AFL somewhere.
But coaching is not for everyone. I also think he hasn't. I mean, he's been a part of this. They've made some terrible decisions on their list. Yeah. Going back for quite some time. So I'm tipping Sydney there.
Yeah, I'll go with the Swans.
Then you got North GWS. That's down in Tasmania.
It's hard to see North going zip 3, but it's also hard to see them beating GWS.
They're not going to beat
anywhere.
GWS down there.
No. They actually play well down there, GWS.
GWS are good. They had a blip against Adelaide. I still believe that.
How would Josh Kelly go against his new team?
That's right. That's the one thing that's kind of interesting. Now, the other one's Richmond West Coast.
Oh, that's the end. That's the Tigers bubble burst.
Yeah.
See you.
They're playing a real side. It's that the G is the only thing that makes it. And West Coast were bad against St Kilda.
Yeah, they weren't great,
if they get out of kick straight.
But I think that they'll just be too good.
It would
West
be
Coast.
Very Richmond for Richmond to win that, though.
Yeah.
And beat,
True.
Geelong, Melbourne. I'm tipping Geelong.
Yeah, Geelong. It's at Etihad. It's not
Here's
at
the thing I don't get
Park.
about this. It's a Geelong home game, and it's at Etihad Stadium.
We've
spent a fortune on down at Simmons Stadium, or whatever we're calling it now.
They've rebuilt the whole thing from the ground up.
And then Melbourne have got the MCG across the grounds, like across the street. So why would you play that game at Etihad?
No idea.
I mean, if you're a Geelong supporter, you're going, really?
Yeah, do I have to... Nobody likes going to Etihad, especially if you live in Geelong.
No, even with all that salt. Port Adelaide and Adelaide, that's the game to watch.
Oh, that's the showdown.
That's going to be good. I am going to be on stage with Dane Swan while that's on, so I'm a bit...
Oh, will you?
Maybe I'll just put it on.
Why don't you just put it on for... You got a big screen there.
Just
be the easiest gig of your life.
Yeah, crowd would love that.
Yeah, what do you reckon, Swanee? I'll just wait. I'll let you know at half time.
Yeah, we just do it in the breaks. Freo, so I'm tipping Adelaide there.
Yeah.
I'm still yet to be convinced Port are as improved as it seems. I think they are improved, but
yeah, I just don't want them to have improved.
I'm willing to be proven wrong though. They could actually be decent, so let's see. But I think Adelaide are actually just a much more solid side. Freo Bulldogs. Freo are just terrible.
Yeah, we went through this on the other day, but they are a disgrace, Freo. And I know it's over there in Perth, but the Bulldogs, they'll win this by 10 or 12 goals. Easy.
Yeah, it is.
In a canter.
The thing I don't get about Freo is they're talking about, Ross keeps talking about this 5-year rebuild or 4-year rebuild or whatever. But one, isn't it, like the current players are not even playing for him.
No.
Like
They looked so disinterested the other day.
Yeah, and so you can't even, who are they going to attract?
Yeah.
No one's going to want to go there. No. It's more likely Nat Fyfe's going to leave.
Fyfe will be out. I was about to say he'll be gone.
And remember, like, if you're a bad team, Melbourne had this problem. If you don't fix your club and its culture, pouring talent into it
doesn't help.
Raw talent doesn't help because they just end up terrible themselves. You know?
That's right. Well, that's the one thing that Melbourne, to their credit, have done the last 3 years.
Yeah, but they ruined about
15 decades of it. But
so I'm tipping Bulldogs too. I think Bulldogs are going to win that. St Kilda Brisbane. This is a harder one.
Yeah, this is at Etihad too.
I'm tipping Saints. Yeah, Saints were good last week.
They were very good against West Coast. And Brisbane, I mean, they've been good too. I mean, you can't take it away from Brisbane. They've been a lot better than we thought. But
Beam's come back and he's a great player. And then on top of that, they have a coach who knows what he's doing.
Yeah, that
makes a huge difference.
It does make a difference.
And the players actually are playing like they know the coach is going to be around longer than 5 minutes. Yeah, so I'm tipping St Kilda.
Yeah, I reckon the Saints are due for a win.
Carlton Essendon.
Again, this is a hard one. Essendon have been in form. Carlton Essendon are always good games. And I've got to say, Carlton weren't too bad against Melbourne for 3 quarters last week.
Yeah, but also Melbourne weren't too good against Carlton.
True. The one thing is Carlton did have a good crack, but I was at the game, but when you look at their lineup, it's still pretty thin on the ground, Carlton. I reckon Essendon.
Yeah, I'm thinking Essendon there too.
They'll fix them up.
Gold Coast Hawthorn, but it's up at Metricon Stadium. 2 losing teams.
2 teams who haven't had a win between
It's just so obvious that Alistair Clarkson doesn't know how to coach. Sack Clarko. The quicker they sack him, the better.
It's the only hope for Hawthorn. It's just going forward as a club after the heartbreak of missing out last year.
Yeah,
the premiership drought. Yeah, I think you're right.
No, but how do you like it? I think it's got to be Hawthorn.
It's got to be Hawthorn. They're not that bad as
No,
and Gold Coast, basically. The Gold Coast are hopeless.
You do know with Clarkson, each week they're improving on things and they're getting better. Like, he does fix things up and has a clue of what to do. And there's no doubt Clarko's going to be there for a long time. So all the players play for him and do actually care. They're just got a few issues. And, Gold Coast...
Oh, they're a basket case.
But this is O'Meara returning to...
of course it is, yeah.
Returning up there. With our apologies to Damo, I think our new correspondent on the Gold Coast
correspondent.
I just don't think Gold Coast currently know what they're doing, And the Gary Ablett stuff's a distraction.
They're just, they're not playing for Rodney Eade. They just seem...
Well, I don't think Eade's going to be there next year. It's sort of... This is a year where...
It's funny, the Gold Coast... I mean, they started a year before the Giants and you can't even measure the difference between the two clubs now. And not just on the field, everything. The Giants seem to have been just run brilliantly from day one. So sorry, Damo. The Suns are not going to open their account against Hawthorn this week. Though you can buy us a beer next time we're up there.
Well,
as long as it's not a 4X, though. I don't touch 4X.
You don't touch it?
Nah, it's hideous stuff.
All right, well, we've got... So next week, Will Anderson on the Tuesday. So it won't be Monday, it'll be Tuesday. And then we've got another guest on the Thursday. So we'll confirm that probably on the Tuesday, which is looking good. That'll be a fun one too. And we've got... I'm coming up to Sydney Friday 21st of April, so that's coming up pretty quick. And tickets will be on sale. I'll put them in the link. So if you're up in Sydney, come along. I'm got to start pulling together a show.
Yeah, pull it together because we did it up at the Comedy Store last year and it's a great spot.
A great venue.
It's a great venue and...
it's very intimate.
It's intimate. Everyone gets a good view. Do you reckon Lockie Whitfield will go to this one? He was at the last one.
We should add that we went to the last one. Lockie Whitfield was there and a few of the Giants players. And it was just after all the recent unpleasantness. And you did say on stage, not knowing he was there, after this we're all going back to Craig Lambert's house.
Yeah. which apparently...
Which he took in good humour,
He did. They were fairly stony-faced about it, but...
No, apparently you said he was all right about it. So, but anyway, no, we're looking forward to it. That's the night before Sydney... GWS. I'll probably stick around to watch that actually.
The non-battle of the bridge.
The non-battle, the battle of something now. I don't know what they're going to call it now.
The Battle of Barangaroo.
Well, on that note, we will see you on Tuesday with Will Anderson.
See you then.